I received 0 contributions.
Congratulations.
Skip it up and that up. Listen, there have been 0 contributions, but we're still gonna do this damn Starfield. What the hell? Or is this a review?
Nah, it's sort of a first impressions.
We'll call it an overview. How about that? Because you've played like 30 hours plus, right?
36 hours.
36 hours. That's teetering on review territory.
Yeah,
I've played like 3 hours, and then I wanted to bang my head against the wall. I have some PC footage I'm going to send to Jay so you could see the beautiful smoothness. I will say, never mind. So Jay, how are you feeling about Starfield? What were your first impressions of it when you first put the game in your ass?
Well, first I pulled it out of my ass, put it into my Xbox Series X. That's what I'm playing on, not PC. So you'll talk about PC settings in a bit, but so far, I would say the first 20 hours of this game are the hardest I've had to push myself to try to enjoy a game. And what I mean by that is usually, I've reviewed games for like 15 years on my own channel. Usually I know if a game is good or not within the first 5 to 10 hours. You kind of see it all come together and you go, yeah, okay, that's it. Now with Starfield, though, there's so many systems at play and gameplay loops at play that come together come together with me. But after 20 hours, they all come together and essentially form the game. So it sounds weird to say this, but I think I was like hovering around like this game's average at best during the first 20 hours. And then all of a sudden it opened up and I was like, okay, this could be game of the year. And I know saying that to you is probably like insane to hear because you don't like the game, correct?
Well, I can't see. That's the thing. I've played a few hours. I can't give that call. I will say this, though, from a non-Bethesda fan's perspective, that's a hell of a hill to tell the consumer to climb. Oh, we promise 20 hours in, it's going to get good.
Yeah, well, it's also an RPG that's, well, let's just be honest, it's made to play.
It's massive.
You're supposed to play it for months on end. It's not like you just turn it on and go, okay, I get the whole game in 5 minutes. So there's a bit of a debate when it comes to the actual gameplay loops that you fall into as you get deeper into the game. A lot of people are just starting it thinking like, oh, I'm going to jump in my ship and start having space battles and, docking with other ships, stealing loot and doing all this stuff and then doing missions and blah, blah, blah. The game doesn't explain any of that to you right off the bat. You're just like walking around, you have no idea what's going on. So I could see like an average player walk into this and be like, what the hell is this game? Especially if you don't know about the other things that happen later into the game. Even at 36 hours into the game, I thought that I had seen a lot of the weapons in the game in terms of like modding and the different styles of guns from shotgun to pistols, all that stuff. I thought, okay, I've seen it all. I've kind of hit a wall here. Then all of a sudden I land on a random planet. I have no idea what's on this planet. And there's a giant city called Neon. And I'm on this planet for like 6 hours straight. And it's the most fun I've had in an RPG since Skyrim. It's unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about a full-fledged city in the game with like an underbelly, different weapon shops, customizing your ship. I mean, I can get into everything. And I should also say, no spoilers in this video. I'm not going to really spoil anything. But when I got to that city, I started to see guns that you could purchase that cost as much as like a ship. I was like, okay, there's another layer of weapons that I haven't even discovered yet.
How do you feel about the combat in it, which I know is not the main thing you go to for Bethesda RPG, but is there any kind of... People were telling me last night that, because I was saying that the gunplay is mediocre. I think they were supposed to have id Software get involved to improve the gunplay, but it still feels very, at best, serviceable. But I hear later on there could be a VAT system that you could get where it's similar to like Fallout, because that was one of the things I actually like from the Fallout series is VATs, whereas like that where you pick a a limb or a body part on someone that's the most vulnerable, and it does those slow-mo shots. Here it's just like, at least from what I've played,
well,
it's like, wow, this is a very when it comes to shooting mechanics.
Yeah, within the first 20 hours, I thought, like, this is like a bare bones shooter. I'm like, okay, you're walking around shooting. It feels okay. It's not spectacular. It feels, like you're saying, it feels quite flat. I mean, the sound effects to most of the guns don't really have a boom to them like a Call of Duty game, so the weapons feel sort of weak because you're getting these weird sounds out of them in the beginning of the game. I will say this, though, and again, this plays into the whole, like, play it for 20 hours and say if you feel the same way. But 20 hours in, again, I'm not spoiling anything here. People will stumble across this on their own, and plus we are in space. But people need to understand that on different planets, you have a different level of gravity. So deeper into the game, without spoiling anything, I'll say this. It turns into the most fun I've had in a shooter for quite some time. I can't really give it away here or why. I'll say it has to do with the gravity and what you said, the VAT system. There is something that is like VATS that sort of appears. Yeah, it does appear in the game later. And I don't want to spoil it, but you do essentially get something like that. It is not VATS, but it is something very close to that system. And let me tell you, when you are on sort of a planet that doesn't have a lot of gravity to it, and you also have that ability we're talking about, the VATS thing, dude, I'm telling you, it's the most fun I've had, just like going into a building, throwing like mines that usually, when you throw them, they attach to the floor right away, right? When you're in zero G, you throw them like frisbees, and it goes like spinning, just like it would do in space, across the level, and it'll like land on an enemy, and then you've got your jetpack, and you're in the air in slow motion, basically. Boom, boom, boom. It becomes so much fun 20 hours in, and I know some people are going to be like, that's ridiculous, but again, nobody's going to play this game in, well, I shouldn't say this because somebody probably beat it in 3 hours, but no one's going to play the game for 3 hours and be like, well, that's the whole experience. Wow.
The average person is not going to play the game, and you know, I mean, to a lot of people, they hear 20 hours, they're like, Jesus, some of the games I play are 20 hours long.
I'm 36 hours in. I've done, I'd say, about 20 side missions, and I'd say 7 or 8 of the main story missions. As soon as you get to this level I'm at here, I'm telling you, this game becomes so addictive that all you think about is playing the game. What are you going to do next? I haven't even touched upon you or the starship building in this game, or the space battles, or the outposts, or how the side missions play out, or any of the random events that happen in the game. Once you get into the game, I'm telling you, this game turns into something special. I still don't know if I could say at 36 hours if it's like the best Bethesda game to date, because it's a lot of their systems just placed in one game. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it feels like Skyrim, sometimes it feels like Fallout. So space battles, I know a lot of people right away are like, it's not that great. Trust me, later in the game, when you start to unlock different abilities for your ship, such as like customizing and building the ship itself, but I'm talking about, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but later in the game, you build different ships that do different things.
And I actually like the space battle earlier on, and usually I like roll my eyes at that crap. The only thing I'll say is that I don't like when you exit the ship and go on the ship, it just like goes to a loading screen and puts you in. You know, that's like very 6th gen stuff.
I feel like Bethesda failed to sort of set out a plan for marketing to explain that this game is not Skyrim, it's not Fallout. It's something new from Bethesda in the sense that you don't just get dropped into a world and then seamlessly walk into something, no loading screen, get on your ship, fly out of the atmosphere. It's nothing like that. So let me make it clear here. It is a game that has different, I'd say, gameplay elements that are all over the place, but none of them really come together to form something that I would say is like free flowing. It's not cohesive. You're definitely not on a linear path, but it can feel that way based on how you play the game. So let me give an example here. if you haven't played the game, you start out, you're just walking around a planet, you have no idea what you're doing. You get on your ship, you realize right away that there's a loading screen. Why is there a loading screen? Because the space battles that take place outside of the atmosphere of the planet, that's like its own loading screen. Then the planet itself is a loading screen. The ship is a loading screen. Inside some of the buildings is a loading screen. So you can see where I'm going with this. There's loading screens everywhere that they could have hid behind animations, some of them, because they're like sometimes 2 seconds. I'm like, why is this a loading screen? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and it kind of is like annoying. Like when you go in the ship, loading screen, go back out of the ship, loading screen. That's like, really? This is,
I'll defend it slightly by saying that sometimes in this game you do need a bit of a rest based on what you've just done. So it's not that I'm defending the loading screens, but I'm not too upset about them because it lets me actually think what I'm about to do. Because sometimes you're going to a planet and you know what you're going to do. Sometimes a random event happens right after the loading screen and it catches you off guard. And it's like, okay, I'm doing this now. So it's not like the loading screens really break immersion big time for me, but I definitely do sit back sometimes being like, oh, here we go. Loading screen, loading screen, loading screen.
I do see what you mean by like you'll need a break too, because I'm at this where I docked onto a space station. There's a bunch of enemies in there, and it's not an easy game. Oh, that's another thing too. It's not, and I have a shotgun and all this other, and they are wiping the floor with me. So I could kind of see what you're saying with that. I still think they could have made smoother, even if there is loading transitions. It's like their competition does it. Why can't they? You know what I mean?
People are very upset because we're used to No Man's Sky, being able to look at a planet, fly into the atmosphere, land on that planet, and get out of the ship. You don't do that in Starfield. Is that something that could happen in Starfield in the future? Probably. Maybe that's what they originally wanted to do, right?
They'll patch it in.
The game is so massive, you overlook these like small, I wouldn't call them issues, but sort of like choices that as a developer probably were made for very legit reasons.
So it sounds like if you have the patience, it's worth it because eventually you'll be rewarded later on. So if you're willing to go through the serviceable gameplay that's kind of janky in the beginning, you will get the experience that you expect from it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, let me just say this quickly. 36 hours in, can I put this on Game of the Year list? Is it Game of the Year? Is it better than like Tears of the Kingdom? I don't know about that yet, but what I'm seeing here, if it keeps opening the way it's opening up here, it is very much Game of the Year material.
Well, I'll say this too before I forget, because a lot of people are going to want to know. I played on PC. You saw a video that Jay actually edited where I was playing it on integrated graphics. Now, it actually does pretty well. 1080p, obviously it's medium settings. It's 50% resolution scale with medium settings, which is strange for medium settings that they put it there. But if you have Fidelity Effects 2 on, or FSR 2, whatever you want to call it, you could get a 1080p 30 FPS experience at medium settings, depending on your integrated graphics, even on integrated graphics. But it doesn't mean the game is necessarily optimized well, because I also have a Intel 12900K with an RTX 4090, and it still has to implement FSR. And yeah, I'm playing on ultra settings, but you could see there's some spots where, well, you can't see but there were some spots in the game, you're going to see some of my footage here, where it did dip below 60, even with an RTX 4090, which is a monster of a card. So they got to do some optimizations. It's Bethesda, of course, at least on the PC end, which is the version that I played. I also made Philip Burnell as my character because he's a man, and there have been 0 contributions.
I received 0 contributions.
I could go on and on and on and on about this game, but I think that if you're a fan of RPGs from Bethesda, this is obviously a must-buy. I don't complain about the price whatsoever. I'm talking about thousands of hours of gameplay for the hardcore audience that really have been waiting for the game. I do feel that some people are going to be disappointed because of the way it's set up. However, I was one of them. I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter, but on Twitter, I was playing it for 7 hours in. On Twitter, I was like, I don't know about this. This is not...
I saw your tweets.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not going great. And there's many reasons for that, but let's just cut to 36 hours later. I honestly cannot wait to play the game again. And it's not because everything opened up and now I can do all these things. It's actually because there's a sense of adventure that sort of opens up in your mind once you see what the overall vision of the game was from Bethesda. And once you understand what that is, not saying that, you know, everyone needs to see this, but I started to see it around the 30-hour mark where I realized I get what they're trying to do. Yes, there's a main campaign here, but this game is designed to be played and played and played. Build ships, build outposts, get better weapons, find new abilities. It's designed to just sit in the world and play. Like, just go do a side mission, have some fun. You'll randomly come across a mission that you've never seen before. It took me 36 hours before I really saw the same thing twice in the game. So in saying that, I highly recommend the game. I would say it's sitting on my Game of the Year contender list. I don't know if it's going to beat Legend of Zelda at the end of the day, but it is really close to...
It sounds...
Yeah.
It sounds like if you have the time, you will be rewarded. So just that's the thing. The key is if you have the time. So
yeah, like, dude,
it's an overview. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I can keep going, man. Dude,
I know.
Listen, I'm not.
This is the second take, and he wants
to
keep it short, and he wants to go for another 30 minutes.
No, because listen, it's just podcast styles now, guys. Listen. In closing, Rich was like, yeah, combat's boring. Let me just say it again. Later in the game, without spoiling, I'm telling you guys, combat in Zero G
gets better.
Is so fun. You will not believe it, man. You'll be craving that. You'll be craving to get new weapons.
Gene Park was saying that on Twitter, too. So, yeah, I keep hearing that. So, bottom line, it's a Bethesda game. It's slow to get into it. But if you have the time... Jay's saying that it's worth it. I'll give it another shot again, too, with my Philip Burnell character. He has received 0 contributions. Go help the man out. And he's a man as well. All right, guys, make sure to rate, comment, and, well, not favorite anymore. Make sure to rate, comment, and make sure to sub to my live stream channel in the description below. And we'll see you in the next video. Now I'm going to go scratch my ass.